So the landscape of the upper Sonoran Desert here, about 3,000 foot elevation. Junipers, piñons, occasional mesquite. Starting to get into thicker mesquite here. And check this out, some cottonwood trees, which is what drew me over to this area. We don't have cottonwoods around for miles and miles, and here are these cottonwoods in the middle of this canyon, middle of this drainage here. And if you look down below, we have water. Now that's not always the case where you hike to cottonwoods and voila, there's there's water there. But those cottonwoods are usually there for a reason. They're water-loving trees. Cottonwoods, willows, sycamores, even aspens up in the Great Basin Desert used to lead us to springs and water sources. And these are in the midst of budding out here. And a few more weeks they'll be brimming with green leaves. You'll be able to see that greenery from miles and miles away. The rest of the desert will be sandy and brown with the occasional juniper or mesquite tree. And then you'll see these bright beacons of green life. And you can sometimes hike to them and find water like this. So this is a treasure right here. One thing you'll notice, maybe on the camera here it'll show up, got a lot of little butterflies and wasps that have emerged recently. Now it's end of March, so it's not unusual for the Sonoran and upper Sonoran Desert here. It'd be unusual if I was in a place like Great Basin Desert in Nevada. But here insects can lead you to life sometimes. I've been hiking in remote areas where it's parched and dry and hot and sandy and nothing around for miles, and all of a sudden you're around the bend and there's a wasp or a hummingbird or a butterfly or a bird, and you got to stop and look around, use your awareness, be mindful of what's in the area. And I've found seeps that way in springs because there's a reason that those animals, those insects, those birds are there, and they can sometimes key in on the life in the area, the water in the area. The Bushmen in Africa are so tuned into their environment that they can tell whether a honeybee is coming to water or going to a water source or coming from a water source based on its flight pattern. Talk about awareness, situational awareness, and being attuned to your surroundings. So there we go, we got some butterflies and wasps and things like that down there. Now one thing I wanted to point out about this area is if you're going to be camping out here, you'd want to camp up on these shelves. If you had to build your shelter, if you had to build a wickiup, if you had to survive a night out here, or even if you were just tent camping, you had a sleeping bag, you'd want to sleep on these shelves. I know it sounds like kind of a no-brainer not to sleep in the bottom of a canyon, but people do it every year who are new to the Southwest, new to the desert. And the reason you don't want to do that, even if flash flood isn't a concern, is that these are animal highways. You're going to have critters traveling through here at night, which means scorpions and possibly rattlesnakes and that kind of thing. And also it's going to be a lot warmer up on these benches here. So get up off the canyon floor and sleep, even if it's just 10 or 20 feet up off on a shelf. It's going to be a lot warmer because at night the cold air settles in these canyons and cools down, and it's going to be a lot colder. I remember one time we brought a temperature gauge on a course, and I was doing some informal experiments, and one student wanted to sleep down by the creek so they could hear the gurgle of the stream all night long. Sounds good if you got a sleeping bag, but in this case we were out on a walkabout, had wool blankets and that kind of thing, and this individual slept down there and ended up moving back up to our camp about midnight because it was so cold. Went down there later with the temperature gauge, and it was 29 degrees in the bottom of that wash near the riverbank, and it was 42 degrees up where we were sleeping, about 60 feet up on a little shelf like this here. So get off the cold areas of the canyon floor, get off those drainages. Even if you're back east, you don't want to sleep in those drainages if you're lost. Get off of those and get to a little higher ground where it's going to be a little warmer. Here's another example of bees and wasps and insects leading you to a water source. Boy, these bees must be thirsty, waiting all winter for this new life to come forward here. Here's some cottonwood root over here. You want some primo stuff for hand drill, fireboards. Doesn't get any better than this. It's also great for carving, and the cottonwood wood itself off the main trunk and the trees is outstanding for making bowls and coal burning bowls and spoons and that kind of thing, and for fireboards as well. The Hopi make their kachina dolls out of the cottonwood root, and it's a very highly sought commodity up at Hopi. Sometimes when I go up there, if I have some extra cottonwood root or some cottonwood root I've been able to get that's good, I'll bring it up there and give it to some of my friends up there, and they usually welcome that. So I mean, they're out collecting it all the time too, but you can't have enough of the stuff if you're an artist. My first hand drill fire I got about, I don't know, 22 years ago when I was struggling with that, trying to figure it out. There weren't a lot of books and websites, no websites actually, and there weren't a lot of rendezvous and gatherings, just kind of figuring out from museum pieces. Was from a Mullen hand drill and a cottonwood, piece of cottonwood limb, and finally got my first fire off of that. I've still got that hand drill fireboard and sat hanging on my wall at home. It's a treasured friend. But cottonwood, when you come across it, it's not only an indicator of life and water, hopefully, but also a good place to camp. You're going to have cottonwood bark for bedding, for tinder bundles, for fireboards, for making bowls and spoons. It's a really good wood. It's a good friend to have in the desert. And lo and behold, here is mullen. After just turning around and getting done talking about the cottonwood and mullen for a hand drill, here it is. So a lot of people associate mullen with the east, but it's found all over the western U.S. and in the southwest. Here's the first year plant. This is a basil rosette, already coming up here in the desert, so end of March here. And then this would be the second year stalk here. So second year it sends that stalk up. It has the beautiful yellow flowers on it. It can be used medicinally and is used in tinctures. And then when that dies in the fall, you've got a nice pithy stalk to work with for the hand drill. Mullen works really well on cottonwood root or on the limb itself. Lots of uses for this. Really prominent medicinal plant throughout much of North America. So remember, if you come across cottonwoods like this and you're in the desert, hike to them. It's not too difficult to do, and you're going to be able to meet some of your needs. You'll be able to find shelter material, fire material, bedding, and hopefully water. And if you're looking at long-term survival, this would be a good place to set your traps and deadfalls and that kind of thing. So cottonwoods are these beacons of life again. Consider hiking to them if you're ever stuck in the desert. Well, I'd like to thank you again for taking some time to watch this video. If you're looking for more information on our desert walkabouts or bushcraft courses in Arizona, you can check out our website at apathways.com. Thanks again.